Hey everybody, I've been having a ton of fun learning and experiencing the beginning portions of Call of the Wild the Angler. I did have a little bit of trouble just kind of understanding some things that the game didn't teach me. And I thought, well, after I've learned and experienced these things, I figured, you know what, I think there are a lot of people that might be experiencing the same thing that I've been experiencing. So I wanted to create a video to kind of outline some of those things that you can avoid, help the game be more fun right away, and yeah, just kind of avoid the mistakes that I made. I've already reset my game from the beginning, and I just loaded in so I have access to this menu. So I want to show you some changes that you can make to the options in the game and some recommendations for a controller configuration change. And then I'll leave you with a strategy on what to expect for the beginning portion of the game and how to, and I'll just kind of talk about some of the mistakes that I didn't know I was making. And then we'll kind of end the video here. So looking at settings, not a whole lot really to touch on here. This is a lot of preference, but for me, I wanted to set the sensitivity here higher just because it was easier for me to just look around the map. It was more fluid for me on a controller. So I bumped these up to 85. And then while I was fishing, I was noticing that I just wanted to make small adjustments to where the rod was. And it was really, really swingy. And especially if you're on a tight battle, you moving the rod higher adds tension to the line. And that was frustrating for me. So I actually toned these down to 35. I might even tone them down further depending on as I experience more of the game. So these are some recommendations here for you. And then controller bindings. The biggest one for me was to change auto move toggle from the left, it was L3 to circle. I don't know about you, but for me, especially with games that rely heavily on the R2 and L2 triggers, finger fatigue is just real. It could just be me getting older. So having a button that will do some cruise control, hey, I'm all for it. So I set this to circle, and I can talk about what that means here in just a few minutes. Everything else I basically left alone, although I do want to draw attention to both quick reel and shortcast. I don't think the tutorial touches on these, but they're handy, really handy buttons. More shortcast than the other one. So I totally forgot that those were options until I was exploring these menus. So I figured I'd draw attention to them just in case that experience would be the same for you. As far as accessibility goes, performance mode is the way to go. I'm playing on obviously the PlayStation 5 here. This is not an option in PlayStation 4, so there's no sense in doing quality mode. It's 30 FPS is just so trash right now. Don't do it. This is so smooth, and it still looks really good. Accessible cast, you want to turn this on because I know that the game's trying to be more immersive with the right stick representing the casting experience, and you're using a trigger to represent kind of holding the line as you cast it out. It's not good yet. Maybe this will get patched and fixed, but right now it is so rough and so fragile to get right. It's such an easy way to get frustrated with this game. So turn this on. Just thank me later for it. It's just a simple press and hold of L2, and then you let go and it casts it out. For me here, again, dealing with finger fatigue, I eventually just turned this to toggle. What this does is it just makes it so that you don't have to hold the L2 trigger to reel in. It'll just kind of do it on its own. It can feel a little cheesy at times because you might be reeling in fish that just have no chance of getting away or breaking the line. So just kind of keep in mind that this could be an immersion breaker for you. But for me, after a little while, I thought, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. So let me just have some fun fishing, and I'm just kind of pressing the button to either reel or stop reeling. I turned this down a little bit just to keep the screen from shifting too high on the rod when I kind of keep an eye on the water. You can fluctuate this as you need. These two here, for me, created more immersion in the game. If you're beginning, leave these alone because it'll teach you the timing of what the strike is, but then as you get more familiar with the game, you might make these adjustments too. I turned the sound effects to just make the strike sound when I'm successful in a strike. Not a whiff or not a miss or not like a barely good strike or whatever. This has been really helpful. And then I've also turned off the strike indicator. This is the text that appears on the screen that says, hey, hit that R2 button right now. So again, as you're learning the game, leave this alone. But if you want a little bit more immersion, this is a great opportunity. This is a great adjustment to seize that opportunity. And then for me, I felt the vibration to be a little too strong, so I toned it down to a 3. Again, this is always, I mean, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. User preference, right? And same thing for trigger effects. Because I'm dealing with some finger fatigue after a while, I eventually turn this off. But to bring back some of the immersion, I will set this to 1. I just didn't want to fight my controller as much when I'm trying to play the game and have a good time. But having it set to even 1 is enough tension, adds enough immersion by adding enough tension on the trigger when I'm trying to reel in a fish, or I'm playing with, you know, pulling the rod back with the R2 button. I turned boat assist off because I got tired of slowing down when I was approaching the shore or a dock. Eventually, I just decided to crash into them and bail. So again, use this if you feel like you're getting stuck on too many rocks and you just want to have the game help you to kind of stay away from that difficult terrain. By all means, leave this alone. Again, user preference. I turned off camera shake. And lastly, I bumped up the field of view just to kind of show me a little bit more on my screen. I like 95. I feel like when I got to 100, in fact, I might even keep it down at 90. But when I got to 100, I noticed this at about half an inch on either side of the screen had a little bit of a fisheye effect. So 90, I think, is a sweet spot. I think this is everything the same. I happen to know Imperial. I like feet, yards, miles. Just my preference. All right. For YouTube's sake, I turned off the music, but you can leave it on. Ambience is really where it's at. This is so good. When you're near a waterfall or you just want to hear some fish splashing, this is so good. Even at nighttime, there's a little bit of effects going on. It's so good. Sound effects bundles up the menu sound effects with other things that's going on in the game, so use it to your preference here. And although I like reading the subtitles and listening to the dialogue, I thought it was way too loud, so I turned that down. And then lastly here for multiplayer, again, this is just to kind of make it simpler for you to have a good time, break immersion less by just reading text on a screen. I didn't care about online player IDs because everyone's random to me, so I don't really care. Especially if I'm going into playing multiplayer games with friends, they appear as gold circles on the map as opposed to gray ones, so I didn't even need this. But if I'm running around and I see people and I can't tell who's in whose, then I would flip this back on, and this would show the names on top of their heads when they're walking around. But if you're just playing with a couple of friends and you're all kind of together, eventually you don't need this. I did turn the activity report to 7 because I felt at 5 seconds I would read something and it would fade away too fast for me sometimes, especially in a very busy server. So I just bumped that to 7. I increased the size again just to make it easier for me to read. And then this actually is basically the most noisiest part of that activity report. If you don't care about who's leaving and going, turn these off. I only will leave them on if I'm trying to connect with some friends. As of right now, I think is on release. Joining through Apex Connect is really buggy and it's very inconsistent. So right now I leave it on just to make sure I am with a friend or my friend is left. But then after that I'm fully connected, I turn these off. And that's it. As far as settings goes, that's all you need to know. When you get into actually playing the game, in fact, you can see I started this game over because I wanted to build a tutorial video, which is coming out next. Let me turn this off, actually.
Let's get you in position. Step up to the pier if you please.
Okay, I already activated this part of the tutorial here. So, I mentioned in the control settings, I hit circle for auto movement. It's just like any other game that typically has a lot of running around. You just press circle and you go. If you're running on flat terrain like this, and then you hit circle, it'll keep the speed up for you, and you can walk around and stuff. So that's just one little tip. Don't be at a dead stop and hit circle. You just walk slower. So get a good run and then press the button. Auto toggle. This circle button auto toggle works for vehicles as well. As soon as you hop in a Jeep or a boat, press circle and away you go at full speed. So that's just really, really handy. The other thing that, as far as controls go, oh, the casting. Let me show you this. Let's actually see if it shows us. I don't think it will.
I see you brought your own rod. Can't get anywhere if you don't take it out. So
Yeah.
you do the honors.
So what it wants us to do,
Let's start off with a simple cast.
what it wants us to do,
Keep those
oh my
shoulders
gosh.
and hips square for me.
Thank you, Sophia. It wants you to hold L2 and move the right stick back and forth. Even though I changed it in the menu to just be a single button, this text will always appear. So you can either do it, I'm going to do it over here. You can either do it by holding L2 and then you just let go. Or you can just tap R1 for a short cast. And I use this all the time. So even for the case in this tutorial, just tapping R1,
Reel it in.
you're good to go.
Get used to it.
I use a toggle for L2, so I just tap the button and it reels it in. Again, saving some finger fatigue.
Now we're fishing for real. I'd like to see a nice clean cast.
And then
Strike as soon as she bites and reel her in when she's ready.
And then the last part here is because there's no sensitivity of the reel speed tied with your button, the press of L2, toggle works out okay because you can't control, reeling fast or reeling slow. But if you don't have a fish on, tapping R1 will give you a faster, will bring it in faster. So I'm going to just let it run for 2 seconds with it on at normal speed. And then I'll tap R1 or hold R1 and you just see it reels it in a lot faster. Tap, let go, brought it in. I don't think it makes a big difference when you have a fish on, but it's better to reel in a fish or reel in your lure even if you want a quick reset, just in the event that you might catch something on the way in. You're going to see here what it looks like for the immersion side by me turning off the strike indicator and only leaving the sounds. It just kind of makes that little wiggle. I feel the vibration a little bit. I've got a splash on there. I had to eventually hit the R button to strike, so it didn't work out right now. I didn't have the fish on. And the sound effects was still playing in there. I still got that sharp sound, and I think it's different when I'm successful here. So we're just gonna try it. There we go. Yeah, it's the same. So I'm just holding in the toggle button at this point because it's just a super tiny fish. I think it's the same for everybody because it's tutorial. Let's just bring this guy in. There it is. Alright. Let me release and move forward. So before we end this video, I just want to show you, or talk about one more quick thing here.
Congratulations! Jesus. The fish here aren't yours to keep, so even if you love her, you gotta let her go.
Alright. Things like this, look out over here. Free XP. So I located it. I'm going to quickly touch this thing over here. I didn't actually draw attention to it, but I think that fish that I just caught gave me 10 XP. You run up here, and I'm using the auto move, by the way. So I tap circle, and I'm just walking up here at normal speeds. It's really convenient. Here it is. So when you survey the land, it gives you more of those indicators on the map that show, for the most part, they're going to be more of these towers. Sometimes they're just little locations to visit, but every one of those things will give you the same, if not more XP than catching a bronze fish. So it's just the fastest way of just getting a little bit of XP, especially in these low levels. No fall damage, by the way, so immersion ends there. But really, really fast way to get 10 to 15 actually 10 to 25 XP, because I think I got 10 XP just for finding the location, and then another 10 or 15 XP by surveying the land. So that XP is better than catching a bronze fish for the most part.
This ain't just any outpost. You'll find all the bells and whistles here, like Taylor's Tactics.
I'm just gonna let this guy play out.
Run by my friend Sophia. Other than that, you'll be able to find notice boards, storage lockers, a boathouse, and a garage for easy access to transportation, plus a flagpole for yourself.
Okay. Usually when you find new locations, you'll see something glowing red like this. The game does a really good job of showing you them from far away through, even through material. So you won't have to work too hard to find the collectibles. Again, that's 10 XP right there. That's better than, I think it's equivalent to catching a bronze fish for the most part. There are four. There are going to be four locations on the map that are these camps, and they're going to have challenge boards. Those are the best ways of just kind of quickly getting missions to go after, keep you focused for the short term on some specific things. But they're also great ways of getting some early game XP. So I would definitely recommend those over just fishing for anything, because they combo up pretty nicely. And then the last thing I want to show you before we break here is actually two things I want to show you. I want to demonstrate real quick the car thing. So I'll just let's just jump into this guy. Here we go. So all I did was press circle, and I'm going. I'm off to the races here. So cruise control is great. Having fun with it is great. There's that. When you get to the shop, and I want to show you this. I'm going to go into more detail about this in my next video, but for this one, just assuming you never watched that video, you're going to get some free minnows, which is great because the minnows are not available. Where is it? Here. You don't get minnows until level 10. So you don't need to blow through these real fast. So save these specifically for your tutorial mission. I didn't know that right away. I went through these. I wasn't paying attention. I just got rid of them all too fast. So keep those for when you really need them. There's going to be a couple of tutorial missions where you're going to go after some more of a predatory type fish. That's when they're going to be helpful. Another thing to keep in mind is I would recommend don't spend any money on anything. I know right now these aren't terribly expensive. We only got 5 coins right now, but we'll get more pretty quickly. And we'll get to level 10 without playing too long. Some of these you don't need to rush into. Like this is the level 8. I don't think you need to rush into this at all. By the time you finish all of the tutorial missions, you're going to be halfway through level 12 onto level 13 before you even look at the challenge board stuff. So get through those, and I'll have a video that really helps you expedite progressing through those. But you should be well into at least level 11. I think if you don't do the grand tour, there'll be maybe a 10 or 11. Finishing the grand tour is a great way of just getting a bunch of XP, which is visiting the map. Talked about that tiny bit, so we'll go into more detail about what that looks like later. But it really won't take you more than an hour or two post-tutorial stuff to be at level 15, and you're already looking at having, I think I had about 2,500 coins at that point, where I could easily afford something like this. And I had plenty of lures to choose from and stuff like that. So again, I'll go into much detail here, but I would highly, highly, highly recommend do not buy anything. Get through the tutorial mission so that you see how much is given to you for free, and then fill in your gaps from there. And I'll tell you this from experience. I saved up my money for this because I thought, hey, having a 4-pound test would be very useful, only to find out it doesn't fit in any of the reels that I had. It doesn't fit in any of the reels. I don't even think it fit into the level 8 or the level 10 reel. And that was super frustrating. I think it actually did fit in the 10. But it was super frustrating to be like, I finally got a good chunk of money. Let's get some nice line, and then it doesn't work in anything that I have. And then by progressing through the tutorial missions, I think I got this exact one for free. So that's my last bit of advice for you. And yeah, hope you have fun with it after that. And that's all I have to offer for you now. So thanks for your time, and hope you found this helpful. And yeah, have fun fishing. Bye.